everybody, Stoli here with History in Your Own Backyard. Today I'm doing a video that's a little bit different. It's a personal history video on the car that I'm driving right now. It's a 1970 AMX. I bought it when I was 18 years old. I've had it for 50 years, and I'm going to give you a little background history about the car. Stay tuned.
Most guys don't keep a car for 40 or 50 years unless they really love the beast. If you're one of those long-term car owners, leave a comment below telling me what you have and the story behind it. This love affair with the AMX started in 1972. I was 15 years old on my bicycle, stopped at the traffic light at the corner of Anderson Ferry and Sidney Roads on the west side of Cincinnati, Ohio, when a dark blue 1969 AMX with white stripes pulled up next to me. I had never seen one before. It was gorgeous and sounded great. I didn't know what it was, but it was love at first sight, and I had to have one. I started doing research on the AMX at the library in downtown Cincinnati. I read everything I could find out about these cars, even buying a Chilton's repair and tune-up guide before buying an AMX. I discovered that the two-seater AMXs were only built in 1968, 69, and 70 with automatics and four-speed transmissions. They were powered by a 290, a 343, or a 390 cubic inch engine in 68 and 69, and a 360 or a 390 cubic inch engine in 1970. I set my sights on buying a 1970 390 4-speed. I liked that Ram air hood look, and the interior, that was more my style. After high school in 1975, I began the hunt to find my AMX. I looked at 9 1970 AMXs in the greater Cincinnati area. Unfortunately, they were all 360s or 390s with an automatic. Finally, in early January 1976, a 1970 AMX 390 4-speed with sonic silver paint was listed for sale in the Cincinnati Enquirer down in Dry Ridge, Kentucky. I drove down and met the owner, a local doctor there in town. The car was okay. It had been in some type of a wreck in the past, as the left front fender and the hood didn't quite match the silver on the rest of the car. But this is what I wanted and what I had been looking for 6 months, so I told him I'd take it. I came back the next day with $2,200 cash, and the beast was mine. The doctor did give me some information about the background of the car. He bought it off of another man who lived in southern Kentucky that was going through a divorce and had to sell it. The doctor, who was somewhat of a car collector, had purchased the AMX for his twin sons for their 16th birthday. Can you imagine two 16-year-old boys driving this thing? Well, the doctor had the car for only 3 or 4 months when the local sheriff paid him a visit one night and informed the doctor that if he caught either one of his sons racing on the back roads again, they would be going to jail. That's when the car went up for sale. I drove it back and forth to work every day for several years before buying a second car to drive and keeping the AMX back in the garage. In 1977, with the help of Jeff Kennedy, we started a car club for AMX owners, meeting monthly for road rallies, camping trips, and drag races. In 1978, I went gauge crazy and installed 5 gauges in the car, 2 of them right in the middle of the dash. A buddy of mine, Dennis Toon, warned me not to do it, but I thought it would be cool, so I did it anyway. What a mistake. Unfortunately, there are other people out there that did the same thing to their 70 AMXs. Lucky for me, I drilled the holes where an air conditioning unit would be installed, so it wasn't like the dash was complete trash. It could still be used for AC. In 1980, my Dunlop tires were wearing thin, so I gave them one last good burnout before going to the tire store. I ended up buying a complete set of 5 Goodyear Wingfoot tires and had them mounted to my new 15-inch machine wheels. I bought the machine wheels from American Motors in Cincinnati. The machine wheels were an option for the 1970 AMX, but it was rarely checked off when the car was ordered new. In late 1982, I began tearing the car down for a ground-up restoration. Over the previous 5 years, I had bought quite a few new parts for this anticipated restoration. The car was torn down to the last nut and bolt. Everything was bagged and tagged. At the time, I was working for Rod Stryker at Quality Automotive, a body shop specializing in exotic cars in Blue Ash, Ohio. Rod graciously allowed me to do the body work at his shop. Once I got the paint off, I discovered the car was wrecked worse than I thought. Not only were the hood and left fender replaced in the past, but apparently the upper radiator support was so badly damaged that the center had to be cut out and re-welded into place. The left quarter panel was also heavily damaged. I'm guessing this was all done by the first owner. I spent months sanding and priming the car. Unfortunately, before I had a chance to paint it, I took a position with another company and I was unable to paint the car myself. Fortunately, a body shop in the area took over the final steps and painted the AMX. By June of 1984, the car was reassembled and back on the road. Every part had been either refurbished or replaced. It was definitely one slick car when I was finished. One of the more interesting stories about this car is the dash. During the restoration process, I decided to sell my 4 original factory mag wheels and Space Saver spare. I placed an ad in our club newsletter asking $150 for the wheels and the spare. One of our club members, Steve Petrowski, whose father owned Montgomery AMC Jeep, formerly Harry and Carl AMC, made me an offer. He had a new, complete 1970 AMX dash and wiring harness that he wanted to trade for my wheels. Turns out that back in 1969, the Harry and Carl dealership had one of the 52 1969 Superstock AMXs in inventory that was available for purchase. If you're not familiar with the 52 Superstock AMXs built by AMC, I'll put some links below. These factory-built race cars were pretty phenomenal with quarter-mile times straight off the showroom floor in the low 12-second range. Anyway, the Superstock AMX at Montgomery AMC, then Harry and Carl AMC, didn't sell that year, and neither did quite a few other Superstock AMXs around the country. Since the new 1970 AMX was redesigned with new fenders, hood, bumper, and interior, AMC shipped these 1970 parts to the dealerships who still had the Superstock AMXs in order to upgrade them and also to keep them updated for NHRA competition. The Harry and Carl AMC Superstock AMX was finally sold to a man from Indianapolis in 1971. Some of the parts for the conversion were swapped out on the car beforehand, but the 1970 dash was never installed, and that sat on the back shelf of the dealership until 1983 when Steve traded me the dash and the complete wiring harness for the wheels and the spare. I installed the Superstock dash in my AMX during the reassembly of the restoration. In 2024, while I was filming the reunion of Superstock AMXs at Edgewater Raceway Park in Cincinnati, I met Lenny Ditello, the current owner of the Superstock AMX that came from the Harry and Carl AMC dealership. The dash I have in my car should be in his car. Notice I didn't drill any holes in that new dash. After the restoration, instead of going to shows, I ended up going to the drag strip. With the help of my friend Kevin Thomas, we were able to get the car down to quarter-mile times at 1320 at 102 miles per hour. Nothing to write home about, but respectable nonetheless. One of my true passions with the AMX was to wash and wax the car on a Saturday afternoon and then take it out that night for what I called a midnight run on the back roads. I had 3 different courses laid out for these runs in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. My last midnight run happened in August 1988 when I was doing a route in Kentucky. It was about 10 p.m. and dark. I was driving eastbound on Route 22 in Pendleton County, Kentucky, which is extremely curvy. I wasn't very familiar with the road, so I was taking it easy, doing about 35 miles per hour. I came into the burg of Goforth, Kentucky, when the road split. I thought Route 22 went to the right, but at the last second, I realized it went to the left and Fishing Creek Road went to the right. I hit my brakes hard and turned the wheel to the left, but the front wheels locked up in the gravel buildup between the fork and the road. The car started sliding and I went straight into a stone wall. I didn't get hurt, but the AMX took a serious hit. The next day, I rented a trailer and towed the car back home. I put it back in the barn and got busy with life. The car sat under a car cover for 35 years. In March of 2024, I was 66 years old and putting together my will. I realized I needed to do something quick with my AMX as my time was running out. My neighbor, Fred Petticone, came over and helped me pull the car out of the barn and place it in my garage. I decided that this wasn't going to be a total restoration like back in the early 80s. I just wanted a driver, so I began tearing into it. I had to get it running first in order to get the car to a body shop for repair. Through the rest of 2024, I rebuilt the carburetor, installed a new gas tank and new fuel lines, new points, plugs, plug wires, battery, everything. I drove to Detroit to pick up a nicely used factory heavy-duty radiator, installed new brakes, new brake lines, master cylinder, and more. I got the car up and running, but I needed to locate a bunch of parts that were damaged in the accident. Luckily for me, Bruce Rambler in Pennsylvania was able to supply me with a set of front bumper brackets. John Cox in North Carolina shipped me a new lower radiator support as mine was destroyed in the wreck. Tom Miles in Missouri was able to ship a nice used hood latch, while Mike Bobowick in New York supplied me with a hood latch support for the front bumper. Most of the other stuff I already had, including a new old stock right front fender. In March of 2025, I contacted Steve Berger in nearby St. Leon, Indiana. Steve was a Mopar guy, but I thought he might know someone who could do the framework on my car. I sent pictures to Steve of the damage. Steve told me that he typically only works on Mopars, but said he'd work on my AMX. I took the AMX to Steve and he replaced the lower radiator support and installed the right front fender. Steve did a really nice job on the framework. Now it was ready for the body shop. If you have an older car that needs body work and paint, you know how difficult it can be to find someone to do the work and how expensive it can be. I had been checking out body shops for the past year and they were all backed up with 1 to 2 year waiting periods. Somebody told me about a guy in Cincinnati that might be able to help me out, so I gave him a call and drove over to his shop. It was a small one-man shop behind his house, but he seemed like he knew what he was doing. He said he could start on it in a few weeks, so I stripped the car down, and in April of 2025, I had the AMX towed to his shop. He finished the AMX 3 months later in July. In a nutshell, it was shiny, but it looked like crap. The car was trashed. There was dirt in the paint. There was runs in the paint. There was fish eyes in the paint from water in the airline. The bodywork was total garbage. I brought the car back home, and after looking it over for 2 days, I decided I couldn't live with it looking like an episode from Bodywork Gone Wrong. I called Chris Flederman at Enneking Auto Body in Batesville, Indiana. I explained what happened and asked if he would be interested in redoing the bodywork and paint. Chris came over the next day and took a look at the car. He told me he typically doesn't do restoration work like this, but since it was in the middle of summer, he said he had room and time to work on the car. So once again, the AMX was put on a flatbed and this time towed up to Enneking Auto Body. Chris had it for about 4 weeks, where I stopped up every so often to take pictures of the progress. I even got to watch the car being painted. When it was finished, it looked absolutely gorgeous. The bodywork was straight and the paint was beautiful. I was very happy with the work Chris and his team did on the car. Although Enneking doesn't normally do restoration work, as Chris pointed out, I would highly recommend them when it comes to insurance claims on your everyday driver. Word had gotten out about how bad the first paint job was on the AMX, so once I got it back together and on the road, people were asking who did the body work and the paint. I even had a guy from another body shop come up and ask who repainted the car. It's definitely a looker now. Since I got it back from Enneking Body Shop, I had new one-piece Dutchman axles installed by Scott Morris at Sunfire Off-Road in Sunman. Then Steve Berger helped me put in a new set of leaf springs, and I put on new black steel wheels and tires. The 40-year-old Goodyear Wingfoots went to a guy in Cleveland with a Z28 Camaro. I took the AMX down to Edgewater a couple of times in October of 2025, but it didn't run as well as it ran back in the 1980s. I've got some fine-tuning to do before I take it back to the track. I drive it as much as possible now, usually at least once a week when the weather is decent. In the words of the late great automotive journalist Tom Center, this thing is no less ready to do battle than a P-40 Warhawk. I've had tons of people help me out over the years with this car. I couldn't have done it without their help. If I missed someone below, I apologize. Just remember, you're the reason this beast is still on the road.
I didn't even get that one.